What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Chuds BBQ. My name is Bradley Robinson, and today I'm going to show you how I made these beautiful, barky, smoky, tender, delicious beef cheek burn ends. Coming up! As you know, down at Leroy & Lewis, we are known for the smoked beef cheeks. Because when cooked properly, a beef cheek comes out super barky, tender, incredibly rich, and a lot of people say it's better than fatty brisket. So that got me thinking, if fatty brisket is a cut of choice for burn ends, then a beef cheek ought to be even better. That's right, folks, today we're making beef cheek burn ends, and it is going to be delicious. These are beef cheeks, often sold as beef cheek meat. And this is the same cut that I used in my barbacoa video. And if you've never seen beef cheek meat before, it's a pretty gnarly looking cut. Very scraggly, full of connective tissue, little strands. So first thing we need to do is trim these up. So on a normal piece, first thing I like to do is just kind of separate it wherever it's thin. Just get rid of all these little scraggly bits hanging off. Just try and clean it up, make it look a little nicer. And there's two main parts of a beef cheek, other than all the little scraggly bits. You got the cheek itself, and then this big fat cap on top. They're often connected, sometimes butterflied. And while this may look like a beef cheek, it is not. It is almost all fat. And that's not what we're looking for. So we're gonna set this aside and mostly look for this piece right here. This is the actual cheek muscle. So now what we're gonna do is go around and clean off all the silver skin, anything hanging off. If there's a big fat cap of silver skin on top, we're gonna remove that and just go around making it look pretty. Clean it up as best you can. Don't need to go too overboard. The backside's got a little silver skin on there, but we're not gonna worry about that too much. Anywhere it's too thin, we're just gonna go around and clean it up. And there we have it. That is a beautiful beef cheek. Sometimes they come already trimmed up. Like this one's not too far off. Again, we're just gonna go around, take all the thin pieces off. Any large humps or big pieces of fat, just gonna clean it up a bit. There we go, 2 beef cheeks. And all these scraggly little bits that I'm taking off, these are not gonna go to waste. I'll probably smoke these up and make some barbacoa with them. But if you want more ideas on what to do with these scraps, be sure to head over to the Leroy & Lewis Patreon page. Evan's got tons of recipes using those, because as you can imagine, there's a lot of beef cheek scrap at Leroy & Lewis. So this is that flappy piece I was telling you about. It's usually connected. This is the cheek, this is not. So we're gonna remove this whole piece. This is all a big chunk of sinew that we don't want. And I got these beef cheeks at my local grocery store. They're usually pretty common around these parts, kind of in the offal section where your tongues are and hooves and things of that nature, livers. But if not, you can always find them online or maybe a Mexican market or something like that. Very nice. Beautiful cut of meat, right? Takes a while to kind of get a good eye for this, but as you can imagine, I've trimmed thousands of beef cheeks in my day. Beautiful. A good couple of nice beef cheeks and a whole bunch of scrap. Now, let's cube them up and turn them into burnt ends. Just gonna cube them up as big or as small as you like. Remember, they are gonna shrink up a little bit, so I'm thinking little 1-inch cubes ought to be nice. Nice sharp knife helps. This one needs a little tune-up. Tough cut the beef cheek is, because it's full of collagen, which is a good thing and a bad thing. For right now, it's a bad thing because it's incredibly tough. If you undercook a beef cheek, it's also gonna be incredibly tough. But low and slow, barbecue style, these are gonna break down and become incredibly tender. All that collagen is gonna turn into gelatin, which is gonna make these incredibly unctuous, super tender, very juicy, and part of the reason why sliced beef cheeks are so special. Also, all that gelatin will help keep these together. So if we overcook them and they go really tender, they'll still maintain their shape as long as we give them a nice long rest. And because of the weird shape of beef cheeks, I'm not getting perfect cubes here, but that's just fine with me. And if you've never had a beef cheek before, they've got a pretty good amount of marbling in there as well. Very tasty cut, underrated for sure. That's part of the reason why fatty brisket is such a popular thing too, is because of all that collagen in there. When it breaks down, you end up with this meat jello in all the best ways, which is why these tougher cuts like cheeks and briskets are so good for barbecue. And there we have it, a whole bunch of beef cheek cubes ready to be seasoned up. To season up these beef cheek burnt ends, I'm gonna keep it classic with some salt and pepper, but because we're doing beef cheeks, I figured I might as well go with Leroy & Lewis Dalmatian Rub, on sale now at LeroyandLewisBBQ.com. And this is just your classic 2-part 16 mesh black pepper to 1-part kosher salt. Perfect for anything you want to get a heavy bark on because it's pepper heavy, meaning you're not going to over salt anything, but we're still going to get all of that black pepper, which is going to give us that nice crunchy bark that we're all after. Nothing too fancy here, folks. Just going to get it covered all over, and that is looking pretty much perfect to me. These little packs are perfect for about 1 brisket, which is really nice. And that's exactly what we're looking for. So now, you know the drill. It's time to fire up the pit. There's a snake in my boot, oh, a snake in my boot. Also, huge shout out to everyone who bought a Chud chimney last week. Old Cockburn and I whipped up about 30 of them, threw them up on our website, and sold out within 3 minutes, which is absolutely insane. But have no fear, there are more on the way. And if you want to be the first to know when we're going to release them, be sure to head over to patreon.com/ChudsBBQ. Patreon members always get first dibs. And just like the Chuck burnt ends, we're gonna put these little bad Larrys on a rack just for easy transportation throughout this cook. That way we don't have to turn each individual piece over and all that good stuff. We got some good airflow coming underneath. So we're gonna rock these at about 275, 300 degrees for the next few hours, build up a really good bark, and we'll check back in a little bit. I got them hugged pretty close together because I'm assuming they're gonna shrink down, but if not, I may reorganize them in a little bit, but hey, that's all part of the game. Ooh, nice and toasty. 3 hours into this cook, let's see how these little nuggets are looking. Ooh, nice and barky. Looking good, looking like burnt ends already. Shrunk up nicely. Looking good. And what I'm really looking for is for them to start to kind of glisten. Once that fat starts leaching out, then I know they're ready to pull off the pit. So, that being said, I think it's time to throw these in some beef fat. What I've got here is a big jug full of beef fat. I got this beef tallow online. You can get this on Amazon. I'll have a link down in the description. And just like the Chuck burnt ends, we are now gonna throw these beef cheek burnt ends in to get extra tender, soften up, and become the delicious little morsels we want them to be. So, in they go. Yoink. And as you can see, we've got some nice color, nice bark all the way around. That's really what we're after. And that bark's going to continue to darken while it's in the beef fat. Good pepper coverage. We can tell it's smoky because of that nice red color. They're tough as nails right now. Bounce this off the ground. These are probably reading 200 degrees plus internal already, but in order to get them tender, we're going to confit them, hence the beef fat. You can also make your own beef fat. You can check out my Chuck burnt end video where I did a very similar process to this, where I show you how to make your own beef tallow. But if you're all out, like I said, you can always pick it up online. Now these are all nicely submerged in the tallow. You could put these back on the smoker at about 300 degrees for another couple hours, or you can do what I'm gonna do, which is pop them in your oven overnight at about 200 degrees, and we will come back tomorrow morning, and these ought to be tender, juicy, and perfect. One overnight confit later, and these beef cheek burnt ends are coming out of the oven and smelling fantastic. These were in the oven for a solid 15 hours, and that's a little overkill. These were probably done and tender within the first 5 or 6, but holding at 200 degrees is gonna keep them at that perfect temperature and just continue to make them softer and more tender. And it's well out of the danger zone, so we have no worries about spoilage. They're submerged in beef fat, so there's no worry about them drying out. And it's a great way to time your meal perfectly. If you got guests coming over and you don't know when they're gonna show up, you can just leave them in there for as long as you want. So now I'm gonna pop these on some paper towels just to drain off any of the extra beef tallow. That's hot. And we're just gonna let these cool down until they are at eating temperature. But as you can see, that bark is solidified on there real nice. They're feeling incredibly juicy, incredibly tender. Whew, they are hot though, so we gotta let them cool down for a little bit. Ooh, yes please. Oh, they look so good, so barky. Unbelievable. It's at this stage too, you could go in and hit it with any finishing rubs or toss it in some sauce or throw some brown sugar on there. And you're gonna see a lot of that in Kansas City and other parts of the country, but these are Texas style burnt ends. And down in this neck of the woods, we're all about tasting the beef, the nice oak smoke, simple salt and pepper rub. Because for me, it's all about that bark, keeping it super simple and really letting the meat and the smoke speak for themselves. And if you've never had a Texas style burnt end like this, nice and barky, whether it's beef cheek, chuck, brisket, you name it, you definitely gotta check this out because it is a bite of heaven. Oh my God. And although I wouldn't sauce these, having a little sauce on the side is always a nice option. But I think it's time to dive into these beautiful, tender little sticky nuggets of joy. Boop. It's unbelievable. Super barky, super tender. The flavor, though, is unbelievable. So sticky. Turn this into barbacoa real quick. Perfect for a taco. You know, when I thought about making this video, I thought this was gonna be kind of gimmicky, but like, these are seriously delicious. Because a beef cheek is just a smaller version of a brisket, right? It's condensing that bark. It's like a big burn end to begin with. But to bring them down even smaller, increase that bark to meat ratio. That seriously might be my favorite bite in barbecue right there. So good. Such an easy cook too. Yeah, it's a little time consuming, but 90% of it is inactive. And with that Leroy & Lewis beet barbecue sauce, perfect combination. Unbelievable. All that collagen in there makes all the difference. Got a smoke ring all the way through pretty much. Smoky, barky, perfectly seasoned, tender. This is a winner, folks. You gotta try this. Perfect for the backyard cook too, because not like beef cheeks needed any more trimming, but labor of love, worth the effort, I can assure you. Man, put these in a hot dog bun or something, make a little sandwich, little long bun action, game over. It's the mouthfeel. It's hard to explain. So sticky, so caramelized. It's not fatty in the way that like fatty brisket is fatty, because that point meat on the brisket is all about intramuscular fat, and these don't have that. These are just full of collagen, and even though they're submerged in fat, they have a lighter mouthfeel than something like a fatty brisket bite. Like I could eat more of these than I could traditional brisket burn ends. And just like, look at all that sticky deliciousness in there. Oh, can't go wrong with that. That's what it's all about, folks. All right, I gotta stop before I crap my pants. You know, I bet these would vac seal up pretty well. Freeze them, pull them out, kind of sous vide them for your next barbecue party. All right, one more. And yeah, you can reuse that tallow that we confit these in over and over again. Just strain them, get all the pepper out of them. Use it probably 2-3 times. Pop it in the freezer, it'll last forever. All right, y'all, and that is it. That is how to make probably the best burn ends that I have ever had out of beef cheeks. If you give this recipe a try for yourself, which I highly recommend you do, be sure to tag me on Instagram at ChudsBBQ. I love to see what y'all are cooking. Also, be sure to sign up for the Patreon at patreon.com/ChudsBBQ, because in this box, I have got one charcoal chimney that I'm going to be giving away to a lucky Patreon member in the next week or two. There are 3 tiers. Each tier gives you another chance to win, so be sure to head over there and sign up. But if you enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that subscribe button. It helps me out so much. For all pit inquiries, wait lists, all that good stuff, to know when chimneys are coming, head over to ChudsBBQ.com. New School of Barbecue is back in session at Leroy & Lewis, so if you want to come cook with me and Evan and the whole team, be sure to head over to LeroyandLewisBarbecue.com. Tickets are now available and selling fast. But thank you so much for watching, and until the next time I see you, please go cook something outside. Peace! Ow.